You've done so many things. Like
Today?
Well, probably today. Your interest in startup. Why do you love startups?
Energy, positivity, hope, future optimistic. I'm a very optimistic human being. I have a lot of energy. I hate being told what to do. Don't get me wrong, I fantasize about having corporate jobs and not having to worry about the world of startups all the time. I think I love the chaos.
Endlessly problem solving.
Yeah.
Like we look at our weeks, every single week is completely different.
Oh, it's
There's no repeat.
wild.
It's so exciting.
What's this vision or fascination around Nudge on where it's going? Because obviously it can keep on evolving. I feel like it's a watch out virgin because all these things are kind of spinning off this Nudge concept.
I have a tendency to like shiny new things. And I am now doing my best to control those urges and bring Nudge back to a more singular thing because I went too broad, I feel.
Hi, welcome to the Always Business Class podcast. I'm Steve Hui. I'm the points whisperer. I'm here with my co-founder and co-host, Steve Pirie-Nally. He's the destination experience. What are you, Steve?
What am I? I'm all about the destination. So it's like for 20 years, been able to take over 25,000 people around the world, which is pretty cool. But we've got Steve and Grace here. You know Steve a lot better than I do. I'm intrigued.
You haven't taken me around the world.
Well, that's actually, as a member, we do to take you around the world.
I am a member in two of my businesses.
Yes.
I'm a double member. Is that why I got to come on the podcast?
Oh, well, it's very special. And also just to note that this podcast is sponsored by all our friends at All Accor Plus Explorer, where their membership takes you places, gets you 2 nights combination at any Accor hotel in Asia Pacific and 30% off dining. So that deal was hard to beat because I've dined at the Pillars and the food's fantastic, but 30% off though.
30% off's a lot.
So Steve, I met you at the most interesting places because I was going
That sounds really bad, by the way. It's an opening line.
It's a hook, is what they call a hook. Actually, because I was walking into your Pillars and then I saw you and you said, "Oh, I'm a customer." And I thought, "Are you?" But I did not know that your wife was a customer.
Yes, we'd used iFLYflat for years because not long after you started it, we started using it. When we go on these ridiculously expensive family holidays with my ridiculously enormous children who are all like 6 foot plus, economy is not a great option. And business is expensive for 4 people.
Yes.
And I can't remember who actually recommended us to you, but so we've been using you. I think we'd used you on about 4 or 5 big trips before we met.
Oh, fantastic. It's so awesome to meet a customer like in the street.
Yeah, and I remember I said to you, I'm a customer. And Desiree was the lady we've used her on every single one, so she must have been with you a while.
Yeah, Desiree's been with me for like 12 years.
Yeah,
long time. But we're here to talk about you. Thank you for coming on as a guest. You've done so many things. Like
today?
Well, probably today because you're really into fitness. Like we all wearing Whoops.
Actually, I haven't got my Whoop on. I've taken it off. I've been wearing it for the last 3 months. I've taken it off because I get so obsessive about the data. And I think I said to you just before we started filming, I've got so much work stuff going on at the moment. I cannot afford to be sitting there looking at the app, playing around with it. So I've taken it, sitting in the car, I've taken it off.
Oh, right. But don't you want to be gathering data? Yes, your
I've had a Whoop for maybe 4 years, just after they started. So when they first launched here, I was a member of a gym that was their launch partner. So I got one of the first ones that ever came out. So I've had it for a very long time and I wear it on and off and I know what it's going to say and it's pretty consistent and I know how it works. And I do it less about the data, although as I said to you, I do get obsessed with it, but more about the motivation. When I'm wearing it, I find I don't know if you find this, but I find my behaviors are better when I'm wearing it than when I'm not. So it's less about actually the collecting because it's when you've worn it for so long, you kind of know what it's going to say.
Yeah,
it's your accountability band. Well, my wife has taken hers off because she said it was gaslighting her because mine's saying 4 years younger and hers is saying 4 years older, and she's like, I'm done with it. I don't need this data anymore. So
there's a lot of people wearing them now. There's a lot. I've seen so many,
especially for a band to continue to evolve when you've got data actually on your watch. It's fascinating.
Well, I don't wear my Apple Watch very much.
Yeah.
I do if I'm training, but if I'm not training, I don't. But if you try wearing it anywhere else, like I bought the
You can do it here.
no, I bought the undies.
Uh-huh.
So I've had it in the undies, but it's really uncomfortable to sleep with.
Is that the back?
Yeah, it's right at the back. I've got the shorts as well. You can wear it in the shorts.
Guess feedback to Whip, who's listening.
Oh, don't worry. I've told them. I've told them, and they still haven't fixed it. So I refuse to wear the undies anymore.
I think that probably comes on to nudge as well, right? Like actually, Whoop, it's a nudge, it's accountability. So you created exited two companies, and then God knows how many others you've created. And I want to dive deep into nudge and what nudge is all about, because I'm fascinated with it from a travel perspective. Taking a lot of people overseas, and I find travel as a catalyst of nudging people to get different perspectives, come back with maybe a 1 degree. I'm a pilot by trade as well.
I didn't know that.
Well, here we go. We're learning a lot about each other on this podcast.
The three Steves.
The three Steves. So, where did this nudge come from?
Creating a company name is one of the most awful things to do. And, if you look at my first one, it was called Fingerprint, and that was easy back then. One, it was a long time ago and there was more names available, and it was a recruitment business in the digital space. It was when digital was new, just like AI is new now. That's how long ago it was. And I felt that everyone was individual, should be treated that way. So Fingerprint was an easy one. The next one I'm not even going to talk about because I didn't come up with a name and I never liked it. Then I had another one called Human because it was about humans. And I was really struggling with nudge because it was 2019. Everyone had created 1,000 companies. Startup world had really kicked off. And I wanted to build a recruitment business in the startup space. Now, as much as the startup space was kicking off, it still wasn't the thing everybody wanted to do. Right? People were very, very reluctant to leave their jobs and go and work in a startup. Mm-hmm. So in my brain, I was thinking, okay, well, no one applies for jobs for startups back then. Now if you put a startup job, everyone wants to do it, but back then people didn't, right? You just got zero response. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I'm just going to have to headhunt. So I felt like I was going to have to nudge people out of where they were into that job. I looked, Nudge was available. I was like, sensational. Nudgegroup.com was available. I was like, how good's this? This is going to be great for marketing. And then obviously we've now got the YouTube show, Give It a Nudge. We've got Nudge as a service. We've got Nudge Remote. We've got Nudge Rewired. You can do so much with it. So, that was where it came from. So there was a thought process behind it. I had so many names. It was the same when we did pillows. Like we had like 80 names and you have to get down to one, right? It's just, but there was a reason. Yeah.
Do you still own all the domain names for those 80 options?
No, I've let them, some of them, I've let a lot of them go.
What are the ones that let it go? Come on, nudge what?
Oh gosh, there was so I can't even.
Because Steve's a bit of a domain culprit as well.
200 domain names.
So I've got a friend like that, Matt Brown. He buys domain names constantly. He's got thousands.
You're just trying to block people. You got some ideas.
I really just have no interest in that. Okay. So I couldn't even tell you the ones that have gone. But basically, I've got the Nudge Group. I think that might be it. I did have Nudge Rewired. I did have Nudge Remote. I can't remember. There was a few.
And what's his vision or fascination around nudge on where it's going? Because obviously it can keep on evolving. I feel like it's a watch out virgin because all these things are kind of spinning off this nudge concept.
I have a tendency to like shiny new things. And I am now doing my best to control those urges and bring nudge back to a more singular thing because I went too broad, I feel. It has evolved a lot. So it started out as a recruitment company for startups. So when I'd sold out of my last recruitment business, I was determined not to do another recruitment business. I was really determined. And so in that 6 to 8 months off where you're not allowed to sort of work, you're on gardening leave, I was sitting there trying to work out what to do. It was winter. I always sell my businesses in winter. I don't know why I do that. I really should sell them in summer. It would be so much better. But anyway, so I'm sitting around trying to work out what am I going to do? And I had all these crazy ideas. I had an idea, and luckily this was 6 months prior to COVID, and all these other ideas would have been a disaster. So I'm glad I didn't. But I was going to help Japanese tourists come to the Gold Coast, and I was going to take them on property tours. I was going to take a percentage of their winnings at the casino. I was going to do all this sort of stuff, right? And Chinese tourists. And then I had ideas around setting up, and this one might have worked, but a lot of the wellness clinics. So at the time, I think cryotherapy was the thing and red light was just coming out. And I was thinking, I could set up one of those. And I think I've got no credibility in this. And I was just like, I should do recruitment because I've done this for 25 years. I'm obviously quite good at it. It's worked out really well. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And I thought, I love startups. No one does recruitment for startups. Everyone does, but they don't focus on it. They haven't made it a niche.
A side gig.
Yeah, it's just something they do. And it's still that case. There's no other recruitment companies that just do startups and scale up still in Australia to this day. A lot of other ones do them. And Think and Grow is probably the closest, but they do much more consulting than they do recruitment. And then you've got Lab 17, but they're more on-site than they are agency recruitment. But outside of that, no one else really does it. So that was what we did. And we started it just to focus on that space. And I loved it. But what I did find was it's completely different to normal recruitment. And I kind of knew that because we'd done recruitment in my last businesses for companies like Safety Culture in the early days and things like that when they were hardly anyone had heard of them. And it was much more about the individual. It was much more about the kind of personalities. It was far less about the skill sets, right? If you're hiring a pre-seed, seed, series A, B, C, D, private equity, they're completely different personalities, right? You go from people who can cope with massive ambiguity and do all sorts of things to people who have to be laser focused on one tiny thing. And I think a lot of recruiters didn't understand that because they hadn't built businesses themselves. So they didn't understand the cycles of a business. I think that Ashdown got to like 300-400 contractors. Fingerprint was about 40 staff when we sold it. So I'd had various, it was about 40 million, I think, Ashdown when I got out of that. So I'd seen quite a lot of journeys and I understood the difference. And that was our big point of difference. And we went out and that worked really, really well. We offered payment plans to fit in with SaaS was going off and, to sort of fit in with the way they got paid. We let them pay us that way. And we built Nudge really everything around them and what they needed as opposed to building what the recruitment company needed. And so it did pretty well. COVID helped because it went, everyone had to go nuts, right? Everyone had to get online. Everyone had to get in the clouds. Startups went crazy. Funding went crazy. The biggest problem we had, which is one of the reasons we're sitting in a podcast studio now, is that I couldn't get people to leave their jobs to go and work for a startup. They weren't interested. You're approaching them on LinkedIn, trying to nudge them. And they're like, why would I want to leave Atlassian and go work for a company I've never heard of? It sounds like a bad idea. So we were like, well, what are we going to do? I came up with the idea, let's do a podcast. This was early in podcasting days. And back then we had no money. And so we would go into this warehouse and I would film 9 episodes in a row. And we would film the founders of the podcasts, of the clients. They would come in and they would sit here and I would get them to tell their story. So they'd talk about themselves. Then it was a very simple format. And it was never designed to be an external podcast, but they would talk about themselves, why they started the business, where it's at, where it's going, right? The key elements do you need when you're hiring. And we did put it publicly, but we never pushed it as a podcast. It was a recruitment tool and still is to this day. So what I would then do is I would take a small part of that content. Usually the question I would ask right at the end to make it easy from an editing point of view was, why would someone come and work for you? And the founder would rattle something off that was inspiring and fantastic, right? And I would take that 30-second content. And when I went to approach someone, and we still do this today, and it still works phenomenally well, we would send them that piece of content with zero context. We'd just send it to them, right? So they get a message on LinkedIn, it's a 30-second clip.
But
they'll watch it. They watch it. Everyone watches it, right? It's video. So they watch it and they go, why have you sent me that? And, they have an idea. It's a recruitment company that sent it, but they say, why have you sent me that? So, we've got a job for them. We thought you might be interested. What's the job? Not going to tell you. So what do you mean I'm not going to tell you? I'm going to send you an hour-long video and some websites and some other bits of information on the company. And if you like what you read, come back to me and we can talk. 80% of people never hear from them again. Can't be bothered. Fine. But the 20% that do are so engaged with the brand. They know what the founder's reason for starting the business is. They know where it's at. They know where it's going. They know what they're like. They know the whole mission. They know everything. And they still don't know what the job is, but they've listened to it enough to want to come back to me and say, I want to know more. So instantly, the candidate I've got sitting in front of me, even though we haven't started the recruitment process yet, is a far more engaged candidate than someone who's just applied for a role by going, boom, apply. And what you find is that if you look at our clients who use that system, because some people don't want to do it, they're not comfortable doing the content, and the ones who just do traditional recruitment, the impact the candidates that we hire that way have and the length of tenure they have is nearly 10 times what it is over here.
Wow.
And that is not because we're doing a bad job here. It's just you're removing a lot of chance. Like with this, if someone responds to me because the job's paying 10 grand more or because it's closer to them or for whatever reason, right? They could work out and be a fantastic candidate. But they could also not, because the one thing they haven't joined for is they haven't joined for the founder. They haven't joined for the mission. That wasn't what the hook was. But these ones, they were hooked by something more than that. And that was all ancillary and later. And it changed the way we recruited.
And you're doing that pre-COVID or post-COVID when this all started with
pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And then, actually, I've never talked about this. During COVID, we had to keep doing it, but it was a nightmare. So the guys that I was doing this in their warehouse, they were like a live production company. So they couldn't do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I built this studio within their warehouse, which I was completely sealed off on. And I would go and sit in this chair and I'd have all these TV screens around me. It was like something out of a Bruce Willis futuristic movie, right? Headphones on. And I would interview people remotely. And the team controlling all the things, because the equipment we have now is so much more advanced, were all sitting in another room separate from me. And I wasn't allowed to talk to them. I could open this window and talk to them kind of, and I'd have my own lunch with me. And I'd sit in there all day and I'd film on my own. I wouldn't see anyone. And we'd do it all remotely.
I'm really looking forward to some B-roll coming through on this episode, like a little periscope.
I'd forgotten. It was awful. It was really awful. I like people, and I found that really being on my own all day and doing like 7 or 8 episodes. And those episodes, look, they worked to a point, but they got nowhere near the same traction that the face-to-face does. And that's why most of the podcasts we do now, I refuse to do remote. It just doesn't have the same level of connection.
Yeah.
I think it's like fascinating around recruitment, right? Like, of course, we wrote a whole bunch of notes, and I love how we've just gone down this angle of recruitment. And as I'm listening to it, it's like it plays across so many different, like, yes, you're in recruitment, but aren't we all in recruitment in regards to recruiting customers or recruiting partners and that sort of stuff?
Well, recruitment is sales. It's a double sales thing. It's
and the basics of that video going through, and especially as we're finding we're recruiting at the moment, it's like, so many people are bought into this vision of the founder, and more people, like I've done with corporate, this big company, and that's what we're finding anyway. So,
well, the interesting thing is, if you go way back in my career to when I was doing corporate recruitment at Ashdown, we used cameras to record our interviews. So back in those days, you would remember, every single interview you had with a candidate was face-to-face. So recruitment companies had thousands of meeting rooms, right? Mm-hmm. And you would sit there and they would come in, and it would be a nightmare to get them to come in. They'd lie and say they were going to the dentist or whatever it was, and they'd come in and sit with you and you interview them, take notes, and then you'd send the resumes off. I started recording those, and I start at the end. So I would do my normal interview, and then at the end, I'd have a little camera on a tripod, shitty little camera, and I would record 3 questions that I would ask them. I can't remember what the questions were. I'm sure I could if I tried, but let's not try. And then I would send that video. And it was only 3 questions because we couldn't compress videos back then, and we couldn't email them. So it had to be short. But what it did was, it was the opposite of what I'm doing now. It was giving them some context as to this candidate. Say, I like this candidate because this is, and also here's an actual video of them, so they got to see them.
Yeah.
And that was groundbreaking at the time, and everyone loved that. So video's always been in there. But that was a really poor version. And then we went to iPhones because iPhones came out. And then obviously, where are we now? But Nudge just sort of really took off after that. And then we quickly realized that startups only hire in tranches. They hire when they get funding, and then they don't hire again for ages. This is a problem. So there was no consistency, and there was no contractors in startup world. So there was no constant income, which recruitment companies traditionally have. Their contract income covers their costs, and their permanent income is their profit. We didn't have that, and still don't really. So then we started to help them do other things. We started to help them raise money. So we started to build relationships with venture capital funds and introduce them, because we knew if we helped them raise money, they'd hire. Then we started to help them do everything, because basically the more we helped them, the more they would grow and the more they would hire and the more they appreciate us, because we were giving so much value. And we'd often do all of that for free, way before they wanted to hire.
It's like the flywheel.
The term that is flying around now is the flywheel. So, and it wasn't a flywheel in my head. It was just like simple. Help them, they'll stick with me, and they'll use me. And it was that simple.
All these terms coming out these days.
Help them to help. I'm interested in what everyone says, it's not about the money and things like that. But what brings someone from corporate to a startup? Is it because they just sick of the
now?
bureaucracy? Yeah.
As in a candidate?
Yeah.
A lot of the wrong reasons. And a lot of people shouldn't go to startups. But there are scale-ups where they can go. I think it's a lot of what our job is assessing where they fit, as opposed to, are they right for this role? It's like, are you good for a pre-seed? Are you good for seed? Are you good for a founding role? Are you good for Series B? Should you be sitting in private equity? Because, even at Series D and E, they're similar kind of organizations to a company that's been bought by private equity, but they're completely different environments internally. So it's really going, okay, well, we technically now, if you really look at what we do, we work with fast growth businesses, right? So that's, for example, we've got a new client now that is an offshoot of a massive consulting firm, and they are built, and I won't talk about the names, but I met with them this week, and they want to build one of the fastest growing consulting companies in the world, but they're brand new. They're doing it completely differently under a separate brand, but they're owned by a big company. We will work with them. They're not what you would call a startup, but they're a fast growth, innovative business, and that's where we play. And it's understanding what kind of players they need in there. And that, like I said, the skills almost come last.
So interesting, because we've got some information about your dad and how he pivoted. How did that influence you, do you think?
Subconsciously, enormously, I think.
Because the background is that your dad was a dentist.
He was.
And then he became not a dentist and became multiple things.
So my whole family has been in dentistry since time began, from what I can tell. In England, Harley Street dentist is the epitome of that. And my grandfather was a Harley Street dentist, and he would have passed his practice down to my dad.
Is that the same as Savoy Road?
Yeah, it's like Savile Row, same thing, right? So it's a street, and it's full of the best dentists in the UK. And you're right. When my father was probably in his late 30s, I would guess. I was really young, so it's hard to know exactly, but I would guess that. He found that he had a solid neck bone rather than a segmented neck bone. So if you think about your neck bone, you've got the sort of spine, then you've got like plates across there. His was like one solid bone. And they said to him, if you keep practicing dentistry, because you'll be in a wheelchair by the time you're 40.
Oh, I see.
He's got 3 kids at private school. He's got a mortgage. Traditional sort of stay-at-home mum that, he's like, what the hell am I going to do? Because it's not a very transferable skill. So he went off and did so many different things. He did the moving music. He became a financial planner. He wrote books on programming, and he ended up actually becoming editor of the British Dental Journal, which he did for the last 15 years of his career, and then he retired. But he did so many different things, and I saw him do so many different things. I would have been sort of in my early teens to late teens during those years, and I would constantly be turning up at the next business or the next thing that he was doing. So there's no question it has to. Just look at my life. There's no way it hasn't had an influence on me.
All the shiny things.
Yeah, all the shiny. And that's not him at all. Like he's quite eccentric, but he's a very intelligent, like he's got like 2 PhDs, a degree, like he's very, very studious, as my sister and brother both are as well. And doesn't hate sport, all that kind of stuff. So it's quite different to me. I was much more like my mother, but it obviously had a massive influence on me.
Yeah, because the ability, I guess, it was interesting that he didn't stay around the dentistry area. He just did.
Well, I think he tried. He had a company called Action Group. Such a bad name, but I remember it really well because we would do mail outs because there was no cold email or anything like that. So we would sit there on the dining table, all 3 kids and mum, and there would be like 7 pages, and we would all take a page off, we'd fold it, put it in an envelope, and he'd be printing off the labels, and then they'd get mailed out. And we would do that all the time. And he would run training on dentistry. And I would go to the training and I would turn the lights up and down, which I used to think was the best thing in the whole world. So I turn the lights up, turn the lights down. So I watched him do that, and he would stand in front of groups and run workshops. Okay. But I just don't think he could make ends meet doing it. It's very hard to scale businesses like that back then. So that's why he tried a variety of other things. But
is the whole family entrepreneurial?
No, not at all. Mm-hmm. No one else. I mean, Mum never worked. I mean, maybe she would have been. She was a nurse. She passed away a few years ago now. But yeah, I mean, she never really worked. My sister is a lawyer, a family lawyer. Head girl, top in law school in the UK. Really annoying human being. Really, really studious. I love my sister very much, but it's very, very different to me. And my brother's also the same. He's very, very studious. Actually got him his first job in IT when I had my first job in IT recruitment in London. And he worked for the same company for 19 years. I mean, Who does that? And now he consults, but he still does IT security. So no, I mean, like not at all.
And then your interest in startup, why do you love startups?
Energy, positivity, hope, future optimistic. I'm a very optimistic human being. I have a lot of energy. I hate being told what to do. I really, one thing I've learned about myself, it can be something as simple as my wife telling me to put something down. Like it's the hairs on my neck go up. It's really bad. I've gotten better at controlling it. don't get me wrong. I fantasize about having corporate jobs and not having to worry about the world of startups all the time. But I think I did briefly work in finance, which did not work out well for me. It just doesn't suit me. I think I love the chaos. I think more than anything, the ability to create my own future and knowing that, there was a time not so long ago where the business was in financial trouble for a variety of reasons, and it looked pretty bleak. But I was like, you know what? I should be so happy because I have the ability to change that. Whereas if I'm sitting in a company and they're doing badly and their share price is going down and they're going to make return, I have no control over that. But this is me, and I can work out of it. And I did, and we got out of it. And I think that level of control is something that I crave.
Yeah.
Control freak.
I think that's the same with sort of our customers. Like, they want to have, that's why they started the business, because they always have two options, right? Either work for someone or work for yourself and create these teams and this culture. And actually, basically, it's endlessly problem solving.
Yeah.
Like, we look at our weeks, every single week is completely different.
Oh, it's
no repeat.
Wild though, isn't
but
it?
It's so exciting.
So I've not worked for someone now since 2003.
23 years. It's up there.
Well, I believe I'm unemployable now.
I think
I put my hand up too.
I know.
There's
I
a new
employ
podcast,
me.
The Unemployable.
Would you employ yourself? I wouldn't.
No,
That'd be
definitely
such a pain in the ass. Why would I want that guy on my team?
And with travel, obviously, you've got this Kokoda trek coming up.
I do,
which is pretty exciting. But what's Travel and Nudge and Steve Grace like? Yeah, obviously you've been a customer of Flights Club for a while now. But yeah, let's talk about Kokoda and the why. And what brought you to this point of doing a trek?
The trek is quite separate to work, even though I've managed to incorporate the two.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing like work-life balance, right? It doesn't exist.
Wouldn't want it. Wouldn't want it. Honestly, wouldn't want it. I can tell you the times I've had off in between selling businesses are the worst times, the worst. Look, I think I love traveling. I've always loved traveling. Obviously, grew up in England, traveled a lot. Traveled a lot out of Australia. I've traveled more out of Australia than I did out of England, which is ridiculous when you consider the cost. Mm-hmm. But everyone loves to travel here. I've made sure our kids have traveled extensively their whole lives, and I think that I've seen them change every single trip. It doesn't matter when they were 5 or whether they were 15. They come back quite different from every trip, and I've seen that. So I think travel's super important.
Can you give us some examples of that? Obviously, I have 5 kids, and they're grown.
You have 5 kids?
I know, yes.
Is that why you're a pilot?
I should be.
Are they in the same city?
Yeah. I should be a pilot. It'd be cheaper than flying flat, but that's where you got points. What are some of those moments that you're like, oh, wow, that trip, that experience shifted or nudged them on a different trajectory or perspective?
I think probably the one that I think had the most impact, and we've been back a few times since, and it's a bizarre place to go from Australia. It's an easy place to go to from the UK. Never went there from the UK. Waited till I got here and made it really expensive. Was going to the Caribbean and going on a boat. So it's a different kind of holiday. You're not going to Bali and just sitting in a pool. Mm-hmm. Although even that, even when they were really young and we did take them to Bali and sit in the pool, you would go out into the streets and they would see the dogs. They would see the different kind of buildings. Mm-hmm. They would see the way people live. That has an impact on them because it's different, right? And you explain those things to them. But I think when you get somewhere like the Caribbean and you're on a boat and you're not on a singular island, the variety in those islands is wild, right? So you can be in a St. Bart's, right, where it's $3,000 for a bottle of rosé, and it's basically Saint-Tropez in the Caribbean. And then you can get on a boat to the next island, and there's no electricity on that island, like none, right? And there's a restaurant, and they have no, there's nothing. They're waiting for boats to come up. And then you can go to another one, and it's beautiful, but it's super cheap. And then you go to another one, and it's really grim, and it's
all in the space of a
in a 2-week trip, you could probably do 12 islands, and spend 2 or 3 days each. It's just totally different, right? Mm. That is incredible experience for them to see how the different ways of living exist. And I think when we did that first trip, I can't remember when it was. I just saw them grow up. Like, not on the holiday. It's when you get back. It's almost a couple of weeks after. You just go, oh my God. You know how old your kids now?
9 through to 13.
Okay, so you remember when they're a tiny bit younger, you wake up and they're bigger. You're like, you weren't that big when you went to sleep. What the hell happened there? So that happened, but mentally, the mental stimulation. And I think probably one of the biggest moments was later when we went back to the Caribbean, straight after the COVID ban was lifted. We went like 2 weeks later. We had a pile of paperwork like that to get to the airports. Oh my God. Terrible idea. But we went to this one island and they had no electricity on this island. And they were like, where's everyone been? We haven't seen anyone for ages. They had no idea that COVID had happened. And my kids were probably early teenagers then. And that blew their mind.
Fascinating.
Like these people, they sit there and they wait for these boats to come and the tourists, and then these guys were so excited. We went and ate in the restaurant that they had. They didn't want us to leave, and as the lights went down, once it gets dark, there's no electricity. They started going into the jungle and pulling out trees. They started burning the menus. They didn't want us to leave. They wanted us to stay and spend more money because they hadn't had anyone there for so long.
Wow. But they had no context of what the hell was going on, really.
So no, not really, because it's just I just couldn't get my head around that, let alone these children. So experiences like that, only travel can give you that.
It's transformative in children and adults.
Cultures, different cultures. Yeah, I mean, you can go to Singapore, you can go to India, you can go to London, you can go to the US. There's the variety in Europe, right? Just all those different cultures. When you're young and you're growing up and you see that, as opposed to you just see Bondi Beach and the city, it just expands their minds.
Because it breaks out of your bubble. But I think even as us adults and business owners, we always go overseas and you see how other people do things. And you go, oh, that's a damn good idea.
Oh, I mean, Nudge had offices in London and Singapore. It no longer does because it was untenable with all the other things I was doing. But I mean, the way you recruit is completely different. I mean, even Sydney, Melbourne are different, but those countries are completely different as well. And we've done a lot of recruitment in the US. Love recruiting in the US. So much more easier.
Well, that's the first time I've had an observation of the Caribbean. Like as Australians, Caribbean is definitely not.
It's one of the best places you'll ever go. The water's warm. The sea life is insane.
Yeah, and you've got the polarity of like if you want that, or if you want to experience that, or something in between.
And everyone speaks English, even in the French ones.
It's just hard to get to.
And then now Kokoda, it's the journey and the destination. So why Kokoda is the destination, and what's the journey been like to get there?
So one of my oldest friends has been in Special Forces for his entire career. Well, not his entire career, since he got in. He joined the army at 16. Actually, a British guy, his nickname was Pom, came straight over at 16 and joined the army here. And he served in Afghanistan and Timor and Iraq, and he was in the SAS, he was in the commandos, he was in parachutes, all that kind of stuff. And he finished up in the commandos. And I don't know if any of you saw on the news maybe about a year ago, a lot of the commandos have got brain damage. And it's the same brain damage that footballers have. So like American footballers and rugby players
contact.
have. Yeah, but it's not from serving, it's from training. So there was a whole ABC episode on it. From when they're training to go, they blow doors off these things, and they might do it 20 times a day. And it was actually the shocks of blowing all the explosions up near them, the doors, that's done the damage. Nothing about actually being overseas, being shot at. That hasn't done the damage at all. That's done different kind of damage. And it's given them this brain disorder, this early dementia to be on it. And he has that. And he's 2 years older than me. He's retired now. He retired as a major, and he manages a charity called the Commando Welfare Trust, which I sit on the board of, and that helps families of fallen special forces. Unfortunately, most of those people actually die of suicide as opposed to being shot. But anyway, he said to me, will you do Kokoda with me before I forget who you are? It's a pretty big statement, right? So I'm like, fuck yeah, of course. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yep,
yeah,
100%.
Just checking. Otherwise, we could refilm it. I'm like, of course. So we booked him, and we thought, well, we'll raise money for the CWT while we're doing it. It makes sense. And then obviously, one of the things Nudge has turned into is there's also a full production company now. We have 2 studios. We're sitting in one of them now. We have this massive capability. It's gone beyond anything I ever dreamt it was. And we do documentaries, and we do events, and we do all this other stuff. And I was like, you know what? We should film this. Then you can watch it when you can't remember who I am. And you can watch it for the rest of your life. And then that went, you know what? No, let's get a bigger budget. Let's get sponsors. Let's not just film. I was just going to wear like a body cam. Stuff that. Now we've got some sponsors in Fujitsu, and another one that will come soon, Plaque Attack, have sponsored us, and we're taking a full crew. We're filming the whole thing. We're making a full documentary. The plan is to sell that documentary when we get back, and all that money can go to the Commando Welfare Trust. And it's also hopefully going to remind the younger generation of Kokoda, because a lot of them don't know the story. So it's as per usual. It's a little idea that's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And in 6 weeks' time, we are going, and there's now 20 of us going. So there's a few of my friends going. There's a couple of tech leaders that I've invited that are coming to really help raise some money. And then lastly, we've got about 15 ex-commandos who want to come for a variety of different reasons.
Because you were going to go last year, but then it rained
Got
out
called
or
off.
something.
Yeah. But we've timed it in some respects, that's good because we are literally going to be walking into Kokoda on Anzac Day for the dawn service. Yeah. It's perfect for television.
Yeah. This year's perfect.
I'm sure we'll get there early and pretend that we arrived just in time, just for television's sakes. But yeah, it'll be epic. We'll sort of I've got this cinematographic image of me walking with these people behind me as the sun comes up and we go straight into the dawn service. Had these special shirts made. So I'm super excited. It's everyone I know has done it since it's a life-changing thing. So to be able to film it is going to be pretty special too.
How incredible from recruitment to media, but there's this infinity loop of what you're kind of doing in Kokoda. It's like you're recruiting these ideas, but then also painting this picture around media that has a huge amount of impact. So
it's content. Content is what helped us do recruitment better. And I believe the way we do it would work it doesn't just work with startups, it would work with any business. You would know now that, and you would both know this, when you're building a brand, people don't care about the brand, they care about the face of the brand. So personal branding and content is more important. People have lost trust in just a logo. They want to see an authentic person. Podcasts have exploded because they're authentic and it's content as opposed to television that is clearly heavily produced. People still want to watch maths and they know it's produced, but it's clearly produced. Influencers who are not overly genuine are falling off of cliffs and not doing so well. Podcasts are exploding because they're genuine. So content's taking over. I mean, I think Nudge will end up becoming a bigger content business than recruitment business, which is not the case right now, but I think that's where it's going. And it's happening right now and it's happening super fast.
But it's naturally evolving, right? Did you
so much
expect
fun.
to create a media company?
No. I mean, can I tell you, when I did my first podcast, I remember it very well. So we've done nearly 200 now for Give It a Nudge. And I've got 2 other podcasts now as well. I have never been so nervous. And I'd stood up and given talks. And I don't know why, because it's all filmed. It's not live. But I've never been so nervous in my life as that day. I just felt like I was going to look like a dick. And now all I want to do is live ones in front of big audiences. So I don't know. I think I wish I had discovered it earlier. I really enjoy making content. It's so powerful. You can achieve so much with it. You can articulate a message so much more clearly, I think, than any other medium. Yeah. It's become so affordable for most people to do just simply, but also if you want to do it at this level, the equipment is insane. Like we've got cameras here that can do, I think it's either 5 or 6K. They're going to have a go. I mean, we normally film in 4K. This will be 4, but I think we can do higher. They'll get annoyed with me if I get it wrong. But anyway, and the clarity on it's like, oh my God, like I've become quite obsessed with the technology, don't really understand it. And they laugh at me when I try and use the terms, my crew, but I love it. I've fallen in love with it.
Well, the ability to do in different places. So like obviously we had a Melbourne base, now we're in Sydney. The ability to do podcasts in different cities wherever you are means that you can take it with you.
Yeah, well, we go and film people's offices. We don't just do podcasts. We often do them in our clients' offices, and we'll film them having lunch. We'll do fly-throughs of their office. We'll film their key leaders doing straight to. All of this helps with the hiring now. So we still do that podcast to Give It a Nudge, and it's still predominantly for recruitment, but we've expanded the services and we've leveled up significantly in equipment and staff that it's incredible business now.
So where do you think it's going, this media? And there's the AI, we haven't used the word yet. That's amazing. And we're 40 minutes into a podcast. But yeah, like with AI and AI generated content, like you can smell it like a bad smell.
You can now, but I don't think you will be able to soon.
Yeah. So where does that then play in the next?
It's a really interesting question I asked myself. Like I think authenticity is going to become so important. Mm-hmm. How are we going to differentiate when it gets as good as it is? I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows because AI is going so fast and no one really understands. You know, are we all going to get like an authentic tick on it, like an Instagram post? Maybe. It's a bit lame. Let's hope we do something better than that.
For the blue tick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's really interesting. Maybe we do a lot more live stuff. I would love that. I love live stuff.
Yeah.
Because I like the edginess of it and one of my greatest problems is if something comes into my head, it invariably comes out of my mouth. Very rarely is there anything to stop it. I didn't get born with one of those.
But that's what makes you an interesting character.
Well, character's the right word. So, I think live is probably where we'll have to end up going because there will be no other way to tell unless we start putting in. But then it becomes boring and it becomes bureaucratic, and I hate the idea of that. Yeah. That will turn me off. Anything that's bureaucratic, that's it. I'm out of it.
I think that's a good segue to talk about the pillars because with AI in community, meeting people in person is the only thing that cannot be disrupted.
Correct. Until we get to the robots.
Until the robots.
We've got a few more years, I think.
Can the robots come in and attend our meeting? Because every time we do a Zoom call, we record on Fathom anyway. So therefore the robot's listening. But that's online. But in person though, I think that's probably the undisruptible area.
The power of community and yet we're so connected. And I kind of did a bit of study this when I created schoolies back in the day. People are more lonely and isolated than they have ever been. Yet we're the most connected. So we look at all these live events. So more people are investing and spending their time and money on events and experiences.
They've gone through the roof. Yeah. I mean, pillars were doing 10 to 15 a week.
Yeah,
it's wild, right?
Yeah, it's wild.
I think community became more important after COVID. COVID had that flick and, it was predicted that would happen. I think one of the few things the big consulting companies got right during COVID was they said that community would become more important when we come out of that. I can't believe that she got something right. Well done. I think it was E&Y. Can't remember. Might have been PwC. But because everyone got locked into communities, they discovered how great that was again, right? Because we had all just gone and sort of left each other alone and shut the doors and then it's just grown since then. And then I think AI is just strengthening it even more because for like we talked about this craving for authenticity.
So was Pillars an idea pre-COVID, post-COVID? And did that change?
Pillars has been an idea for a while. So Matt Brown and I have known each other a long time, done lots of different things together, bought lots of things. Relaunching a new one actually at the moment, but which you'll find out about soon. Just to tick another box. But we talked about it, but not really. And then I think he was in Hong Kong and he was in this incredible club. It was more of a bar, I guess. And it's called the Whale Club in Hong Kong. And he rang me and he goes, we got to do this. And I was like, we do. Because I grew up in London. I like clubs. And we always talk about why are there no clubs here? They're crap. We're both members of Cub at that time. And Cub's great. But Cub's a networking club. And at that time, it didn't really have a clubhouse. I don't think it even had the one in the city that it had prior to the one it's got now. It's obviously got all of that now, but back then it didn't. And it was designed for people to network. And it was fantastic at that. And it did a great job at that. And Cub helped me a lot in my journey. And a lot of the people I deal with now and consider friends came from Cub. But it wasn't a space. And we wanted to create a space and we wanted to create a hospitality space. It wasn't about a networking club. And Pillars is still a hospitality space. Networking is a byproduct of it. So I think he rang me and I was like, let's just do it. Come on. And he's like, yeah, let's just do it. That was the moment, apparently. And then we're like, okay. So then we talked about what kind of building we need. We were going to do an 80 square meter bar. Obviously, it grew, the idea, because it's now a 2,000 square meter building. But we started looking at buildings and we looked at about 80 over 18 months. But again, I actually never thought to do it. It's just kind of something to break up the day, go and look at another building. I love looking at property. Who doesn't? And then we kind of club came close. And in some respects, the fact that I think neither of us had the time or were taking it massively seriously, as much as the desire was there, played in our favor because we'd said no to buildings that wouldn't have been as good as the current. And we said no because it wasn't, if we'd been just focused on that, we probably would have said yes to one of those sub buildings. And then it would never have been what it is today. And then eventually this building came up and it's insane. First time it had been completely empty for 35 years. It's, the building. It's like one of the most beautiful buildings.
Incredible.
It's the first ever bank in Australia. It's built in 1847. It's just nuts.
Right? A great location. Very easy to get to.
Great. But even then, we're like, every hospitality group's going. So they told me before, because everyone knew me because I was looking at every property. And I went and said, don't tell anyone. And they were like, no, the owners want to tell everyone. We're like, oh, damn it. We're never going to get it. And we put our pitch in. And the chairman of the family, it's owned by family office. The chairman of the family office asked me to walk him around and tell him what my plan was, which I did. And I was super excited that day. And I had a very clear vision. And he loved that idea rather than it just becoming another hospitality venue. And they'd also had issues with COVID they had people go bust and they'd lost money. So they liked the idea of a members club. And it had previously been a cricketers club in its life prior. It was also a Pharaohs club in its life prior. It had been many things, but it had been the Property Council of Australia's offices for the last 30 years. So they awarded it to us, which was like, oh, fuck. It's like, this is a 2,000 square metre building. We haven't got any money. Where are we going to do this? And at the same time, I was doing a lot of work with Brad from Tankstream.
Yep.
And he obviously was partnered with Jono from Airtree because they ran Tankstream together. And they'd been considering the same thing. And so we came together and we did it as a forum. We brought in Emma and Cheryl as well. And here it is now. And I still can't tell you how it happened. I can tell you that there were so many moments. And there's one I'll never forget, and I won't tell you why, but I was walking back from a meeting we'd had in the building, and we'd already had it for 6 months, right? And this is not a cheap building. And we couldn't get something through. And Brad was like, that's it. It's over. We've failed. And I remember I just put my arm around and went, no, we haven't. It's just a bad day. It's going to be fine. And I had days like that too, and he did the same for me. And hey, it's opened. It's been open 10 months. It's blown away and exceeded all of my expectations in both the way it's worked, but the quality of members that are in there is also blown me away. Of course, your members. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's wild. And I think the way the community have interacted, we've provided a space. I mean, yes, we do some events, but most of it, it's done by the members themselves. And they have created this insane community, and it's blown me away.
I think it's wonderful that it's member driven, as in like, as you said, members doing events within it versus, curation's great. But then when you're getting the community, I'm obviously fascinated by community, gone to the States a lot to be a part of the Hamptons.
There's so many there, right? And it's different in the States to it is in Asia to it is in London. And that was the key thing. We didn't want to copy any of those. We wanted it to be Australian. So you kind of had to let the members drive it because otherwise it would have been a copy of some, because there wasn't really a club here to copy. You've got the old school clubs. We didn't want to be those. So it was kind of build it and they will come scenario. Kevin Costner would be proud.
What are some of the unexpected outcomes that have happened in the 10 months that you're like, I didn't see that coming? I don't know.
There's quite a lot, actually. I think, like I said, it was never a networking club. We didn't want it to be Cub. We didn't want it to be YPO. We didn't want it to be Entrepreneurs. We didn't want it to be any of those things. We wanted it to be a hospitality venue for successful people where they could come in private and mingle with other successful people and hopefully come together and create ideas, innovation, right? People who've already proven themselves, because there's nowhere to go once you've succeeded in Australia. I think the number one thing, look, we're at 40% women, which is fantastic. That's not a surprise because it was very, very driven to make sure we got that. So that's good when we might have failed, but that was very purposeful. Look, the average age is 39. That was a surprise. I think the fact that the average member comes in 3 times a week is insane. I was thinking probably once every 2 weeks.
Well, 3 times
so
a week.
That has really, really blown me away. I think more than anything, it's the amount of people, and I know a lot of the members. Probably know a couple of hundred out of the 350 who are amazing human beings who've come together and done incredible things already in 10 months. The fact that people are asking us for lifetime memberships after 6 months, which is nuts. Wow. There's just so many. It's literally week after week after week of surprises, good surprises. There's plenty of bad surprises, but it's just far exceeded what I thought. The energy and positivity in there is magical.
Yeah, every time I can have a chance, I pop in, and it's just such a good feeling.
Yeah, the building is a lot of it, right? The building is incredible.
Yeah,
but it's the members that make that.
Oh, we also have a roadshow there at the Pillars.
You've had a few events.
No, we'll have one big one, 25th of March. Not sure when this podcast goes out.
That is the day I fly back from Kokoda, I think.
Oh.
Or is it the day after I come back on?
See.
So, but you've had an event already, right?
Yeah, that's why we had a points event earlier, and this is a 70 people, big one this time with Everlab. But this podcast, I think, will be released after
Possibly.
Who was listening?
I'll be back from Kokoda.
Come on, good one. Obviously, we're going through the iFLYflat stuff, and we had Steve and Lou on the podcast. It's amazing what they're doing in that longevity space.
We've been talking to them from Pillar's point of view. I might need them when I get back from Kokoda. Apparently, you lose a lot of weight. I've got to start putting some weight on.
Yeah. The future of community. So, what's community for you? And then, obviously, Pillars, media, recruitment, this sort of circular thing, but community to you, and what's the future of the sort of play of Pillars? And
I think the number one word I would use is organic. Organic relationships. I've never enjoyed, a lot of these networking places. They force you into groups of 5 or 10 or whatever it be, and then you have to see those people another 3 times, 10 times over 3 months, and you only actually like one of them. I hate that. So again, who'd thought I hate being told what to do? So I think it's, for me, the number one important thing was having a space where you could go, and if you want to be on your own, you could be on your own. But if you didn't, people were open to talking to you, and how you curate that. And we've managed to achieve that. And if you ask me how, I actually don't know, is the honest answer. I mean, I think we thought about it a lot. We tried to create spaces where that was more conducive, and we've tried to do events that bring people together with similar, we've done our best, but ultimately I couldn't put one reason as to why that's worked.
You just got to let the people just be the people.
You have.
Create that culture.
And, we're going to start doing this more in Nudge. We've really decided to build the community within Nudge. We've worked with 500 startup founders, right, which is a lot. And we should bring them together. We have brought them together in instances, but I want to create more of an online community for them all to be together, and us being their commonality. And then hoping that will help them all grow, because guess what happens when they grow? They hire people and they do more content. So I think it's you've just got to create spaces for people and make them conducive for people to want to be there, firstly, and then be comfortable enough. One of my wife said to me one thing about 4 months in. She said, you have got women sitting in this club on their own all over the place, in the workspace, in the bar, up in the wellness. She goes, they're on their own. She goes, for a woman to sit anywhere for any period of time on their own, they have to feel safe and comfortable. She goes, you've achieved that. And even she doesn't know how, but she says, we have achieved that.
Yeah, amazing. Wow, there we go. An hour just like that. But I want to do some rapid fires at the end. Best city for startups right now that's outside of San Francisco. You've traveled globally. We're here in Sydney.
I haven't left Sydney for a while now. I can't answer that question honestly, because I don't know. I mean, I think Sydney is an incredible city for startups right now. I really do. But London is also pumping for it. I have been to London recently. I went to New York last year. I didn't feel it there. I haven't been to other cities in the US for a long time. I haven't been to Singapore for a long time. I haven't been to Dubai for a long time. Tel Aviv's obviously not right. Right now is not a great time. So yeah, it's a very tricky question. I haven't traveled enough in the last 3-4 years, unfortunately, just due to Pillars, basically. Pillars completely consumed my life for the last few years. So I can't tell you.
Worst piece of advice you hear founders getting constantly with 500 founders that you worked with?
I think the worst piece of advice is not a singular thing. I think generally it's VCs telling people how to run their own businesses is the worst piece of advice that happens, because most, and not all of them, most VCs have not run businesses. There are some. There are operator VCs, and I think they're fantastic. But most people, just because you can read a spreadsheet does not mean you know how to run a business. Very much like I don't believe private equity firms should also tell people how to run their businesses. I think they can set outcomes because that's what they have the right to do based on their investment, but don't tell them how to do it. They all hate me now.
The Give It a Nudge guest who blew your mind the most, and why? And I think you kind of came in the office and I was like, wow, that's Stephen Grace. First time meeting you, full of energy. You had a pretty awesome conversation yesterday, I think. But
that was a different podcast yesterday.
But hey, I'm open.
It's very controversial. That's the This Could Be So Good podcast. Look, I think, gosh, there's so many insane guests. If you go and if you think about the Give It a Nudge one, well, last week we had Dane Walker on, and I've been on Dane's podcast as well, which is 3 hours, right? It's a 3-hour podcast. Well, I loved it. We talked about failure for 3 hours. It was so good. I like Dane because he was brutally honest and he didn't look reserved about any of it. Right. So he's told his story a lot. And I know him quite well, and I wanted to ask him stuff that other people hadn't asked. We did a lot of deep research to do that. And there were some tricky, uncomfortable questions in there on purpose. And he just took them in his stride. And I like that because I think so many podcasts don't get into the nitty-gritty stuff. So that blew me away. The guy I met yesterday, Darrell, on This Could Be So Good, which is a show I do with Larry Ender. I mean, this guy's just like, I've never met anyone like him in my life. He's a fitness trainer. He sort of promotes a lot of bodyweight fitness, but he dedicated his career to first receivers in the US. So ambulance, police, so forth. He then ended up doing pretty much every sports teams, NBL, NFL, NBA, like the whole of them. Then he did all the special forces, and he did all the guys before they go into buds. And then he did celebrities. He did Chris Hemsworth, and now he's doing wellness. And I think I told you earlier, what a great, and this will probably come out before his podcast, so it's a little bit of a spoiler, but what a great answer he gave me when I said to him, what's the worst thing someone can say to you? And he said, telling me I'm doing a good job. And I said, why is that? And he said, because if someone tells me that, I might take my foot off the gas. And I don't want ever to take my foot off the gas. He's so LA, right? But I mean, this guy was just so energized and positive, but so much thought, and he articulated his intellect really, really well. I just loved it. I didn't want that interview to end. But I've done, honestly, I've probably done 250 maybe episodes.
Yeah.
I would say 100 of them have blown me away.
Wow.
Hopefully, our ones are growing up. Window or aisle?
Up the front. Are you in the middle? Side.
Aisle.
And why?
I like to get the fuck off. You know why? I don't enjoy the window.
Why?
I feel trapped.
But if you're
in business,
you got window and aisle at the same time.
You do. Well, yeah. So, I mean, it depends how if you're doing business, it doesn't matter because it's sort of a non-event. So I think when I ask you a question, I'm thinking, okay, I'm flying to Melbourne. Like you're flying to Melbourne this afternoon. It's pointless flying to Melbourne business class. Seats like that much wider. So that's what I'm thinking. If you're talking about business class, it's just making sure I'm next to the least annoying child.
We're still working out that algorithm to make sure.
I actually like it when they scatter us throughout because I like to be on my own.
Yeah.
I like a lot of my own time. You don't get a lot of your own time when you're a founder and you have families. You just don't. The gym is one of those times, swimming is one of those times, running is one of those times, and playing is one of those times.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy that. I enjoy the isolation.
You want that peace and quiet where while there's Wi-Fi still on board these days, you can be left because no strangers talk to each other.
No,
so
not on planes. And sometimes I just want to stare. Just at nothing.
Raw dogging.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, it's the thing. Really.
God, I'm going to get
Steve. You can wind it up with the last question.
And actually, the last question I had is that if you could go anywhere tomorrow, where would you go?
Morocco.
Straight away. That's fast.
Why?
Because I've always wanted to go there. It just looks like the coolest fucking place. I think as I've gotten older, this is such a lame comment, I've appreciated history more because I've probably got a lot of it. I think it's such a unique place. I got to go to Istanbul a couple of years ago, which is another place I'd always wanted to go. And I was actually a bit disappointed. There are parts of it that were amazing. We stayed in we were only there for 1 night, 2 nights, can't remember. And we stayed in this incredible hotel that used to be a palace, which was just unreal. But when you get actually into the city and we went to the bazaar and I was expecting Aladdin to be there and it was just all fake Nike shoes. The traffic was horrific.
Will Smith wasn't there.
No. And so I was just a bit, for one of the oldest cities in the world, I was so excited to see that. And there were parts of it that I liked, but it wasn't as dramatic as I was hoping. Egypt doesn't appeal to me, although that's another place where I feel that you might get the drama, but everyone tells me they're disappointed by the pyramids.
Yeah.
So I feel like Morocco, I've never heard anyone say I was really disappointed when I went to Morocco, and I love the food. So it's just so different. So that would probably be the place.
Have you been to Antarctica yet?
I have not, and I actually don't particularly want to. I don't not want to. Don't worry, if you are throwing a free trip, I'm there.
We're there next year. We chartered a ship, so there.
Yeah, well, you can't really fly, can you? But I hate the cold.
It's not that cold.
I'm a solar-powered human being. I like the sun. I like the heat. I don't love the cold. I grew up in England. That's why I'm not there anymore.
Where's Steve? He's in the sauna. Never mind
It's
about
not-
the polar
it's not that
plunge.
cold.
Don't get me wrong. It looks stunningly beautiful, but I feel I'd be bored after an hour.
Well, it's basically.
I'm probably wrong.
When he had 23 hours sunlight. So the solar powered.
There is that. It's probably a very uneducated, uncouth thing to say that, but it's not on the bucket list. I'd rather, if you look at what my travel is for the next few years, and I've been talking about this a lot of time, I want to cycle across the Simpson Desert. I like doing adventure stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do things that are really stupid when you look at them. Like, why would you cycle across the desert when you can drive? It's just, or even fly.
Cool.
But
Because
so,
you can.
yeah, those kinds of things, I like that kind of, that appeals to me immensely. But if I'm just going on a holiday, I think Morocco would be 100%.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, Steve, massive thanks. Really appreciate your time. Or you could have kept on going for another couple of hours. But what you're doing in the startup scene, recruitment, media, the Kokoda stuff, it's awesome.
It's all fun. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, bring it.
That's the pleasure of being a business owner. It's all about ability to have fun.
Well,
by choice.
It's to choose to have fun rather than look at the dark side of it. Don't do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.